everyone, my name is Shauli Rozen, and I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of ARMO, who is going to revolutionize the way Kubernetes is being protected. To understand why a revolution is needed, let's look at where we are today. Kubernetes is becoming the de facto standard for the cloud operating system. 80% of companies are already using it. Attackers are focusing on it. It is no longer off the grid for attackers. It's no longer under the radar. They are researching it, and attacks have already happened and are actually happening right now on Kubernetes clusters. And finally, that's the bad news, current solutions do not work. They were not built for that type of environment. To understand why they don't work, let's look at the two categories of solutions that exist today. Posture solutions, which are aimed at identifying potential vulnerabilities and risks in your environment ahead of time, and runtime protections, which are about protecting your environment when an attacker comes. Both of them have a lot of problems in today's technologies. The runtime solutions today are either dependent on anomaly detection or microsegmentation or both, but that doesn't work. How can you create anomaly detection-based solutions in an environment when there is no normal? Microservices change every day, few times a day. The network communications, they access new APIs, they access new other microservices, it continuously changes. And the result is that current solutions create a lot of false positives because they don't learn quick enough, and because they continuously require to be reconfigured, and policies are required to be reconfigured. It is super complex. If you take that back to posture and the different findings that you find in your posture solutions, you will see that you get a lot of findings, but a very hard time prioritizing which findings, which vulnerabilities and misconfigurations to focus on. And companies get lost in a sea of findings. The revolution is a whole new way to secure Kubernetes. It is by infusing security, visibility, and control into every microservice from build to runtime. It's a different architecture. What we do, we insert an ARMO guard into every microservice, and we completely change the way runtime works. It is no longer about behavioral analysis and anomaly detection. It's about what your microservices are, not what they do. We create a code DNA for every microservice and deterministically identify that it is not compromised, there is no malware in your environment, and there is no attack. False positives get reduced significantly. We then take that back to posture and use runtime information to add context to the findings of the posture solution. What we do, we help you identify whether a finding really manifests itself in runtime. Is it really that critical? Even though it is a critical vulnerability, does it happen in runtime? Does it even go live? The result is an environment where you can prioritize threats very easily. You reduce false positives significantly, you eliminate overhead, you don't need to continuously reconfigure your security policies, and you optimize performance because we have a unique architecture. We don't use a sidecar that doubles the number of containers in your environment, requires 100 to 200 megabyte of memory per sidecar, create a lot of throughput impact and reduce throughput significantly. Our model is a different architecture. It is built into the microservice. It is much more lean, and it is optimized for performance. The way we do it is we integrate once with your CI/CD with our built-in plugins. You install our operator in your Kubernetes cluster, and then automatically every microservice gets an ARMO guard. You don't need to do anything in order to make it happen. Those ARMO guards are embedded into every one of your microservices, and they continuously validate that only your microservices, and only as long as they are not compromised, and only as long as they're authenticated, can run and execute code in your environment, can communicate with each other, and access data. An attacker coming into that environment is left out of the game. It is blind, it is deaf, it cannot propagate the attack, and it is immediately identified, and it is deterministically identified without false positives. To provide build-to-runtime solutions, we have three different products. Our ARMO Fabric Check is embedded into your development tools to identify potential misconfigurations early on and alert your developers that they are causing risk in the environment. Our ARMO Fabric Insight gives you insight of posture into every cluster, dev or production, and it compares it against best practices and compliance. And our ARMO Fabric Zero Trust ensures that no malware is ever added into your microservices or into your environment, and it does that seamlessly. We have a stand outside, and if you're online, please go to armosec.io. I'm happy to speak with you, happy to keep the discussion going. You can ping me, LinkedIn me, happy to touch base. Thank you so much.